Is the iPhone XR worth buying in 2023? Well, if you're lucky enough, you can pick it up for about 200 quid for a refurbished model off eBay. I was lucky enough to get this model for under 150 quid. I think it was 147. Pristine condition, about 90% battery health. So it makes it a very tempting offer. But how do the rest of the specs stack up in 2023? Is the iPhone XR worth buying when there's other iPhones on the market? If you're interested, stick around. Okay, so the iPhone XR shares the same aesthetic design as the iPhone XS and XS Max, and of course the iPhone X from the year before. Full screen design, notch with the Face ID sensors, and then a all glass build. But the differences obviously include the aluminium rails as opposed to the stainless steel on the XS and XS Max. The screen is an LCD panel instead of an OLED, so you've got thicker bezels around the outside. And then of course the main difference, which most people notice, is the single camera on the back of the phone, which is the same main camera as found on XS and XS Max, but of course it loses that 2x telephoto camera. Overall, the phone is still a very premium phone. Of course, the iPhone 14 Plus still has aluminium rails and a glass back, so it's very similar to the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus of today in terms of materials and build quality. You do get IP67 water and dust resistance on the iPhone XR, wireless charging, and of course those Face ID sensors. So you still get loads of premium features on the iPhone XR, but of course it just lacks a few other of those more premium materials from the iPhone XS and XS Max. Of course, for me, mainly those stainless steel surrounds and that extra camera. But overall, like I said, the design of iPhone XR is really nice. It's really nice in the hand. It's middle size between the XS and XS Max. 6.1 inch display versus 5.8 and 6.5 on the other two. And overall, the display on the iPhone XR is really nice. Of course, it's an LCD panel, so you don't get the best quality than what you'd find on an OLED at the time, but it's still a really nice display. Of course, the controversial thing is that the iPhone XR and of course the iPhone 11 year later used the same pixel resolution as the iPhone 4, 5, 6, 6S, 7 at 326 pixels per inch. It's a just higher than 720p display. So of course that on a £750 phone when it released was quite a controversial thing, but most people didn't know the difference, and I don't think many people would notice the difference these days as well. It's a really nice display, really color accurate, about as premium as you'd find on an Apple display. Of course, it's not going to be as good as the iPhone 13 and iPhone 14 models because they have sharper displays, and then of course they're now OLED displays. But like I say, overall the display of the iPhone XR is really nice, and Face ID works really well on iPhone XR as well. It works pretty quickly. Of course, it's not as fast as the newer iPhone. So the iPhone 14 Pro with the A16 Bionic, of course, has a 16-core neural engine, whereas the A12 Bionic in the XR has just an 8-core neural engine. And what that basically does is helps with machine learning. The Face ID sensors makes them quicker to read your face and all that sort of stuff, and of course image processing and all that stuff. So of course, it's not going to be as quick at unlocking as the newer models, but it's still absolutely fine. By the time you pick the phone up and looked at it, it's unlocked. So no issues there at all. I think everything on this refurbished model I've got is genuine. The display still looks as nice as what you'd find on a brand new model. Quite often when you buy refurbished iPhones, they come with third-party replacement displays, which you can kind of find with the off-axis viewing angles, and the color temperature is slightly different. And then of course sometimes the Face ID doesn't work because they've had to remove all of that so that they could get this new screen on, and they haven't replaced it, etc. So overall, display and build quality of iPhone XR is really great. And then performance, of course, like I said before, comes courtesy of that A12 Bionic chip built on a 7nm architecture. And performance still to this day has been absolutely flawless. The A12 Bionic is still plenty powerful enough for a bit of gaming and everyday use without a single stutter or stammer or anything like that. One of the downsides potentially is the fact that it's only got 3GB of RAM over the 4GB on the XS Max and the XS, and then of course 6GB on the new 14s. But I haven't noticed any apps closing in the background, although I don't tend to have loads of apps open at once. But overall, performance has been absolutely stunning. No issues at all, no stuttering. The photos process really quickly, as does the video as well. And battery life Comes with a 2900 or so milliamp hour battery, which of course when it was released offered the best battery life out of the 10R, 10S and 10S Max, thanks to that lower resolution display, powering that only single camera and just a less power hungry device. And I found that the battery life on the 10R is still pretty good. It's enough to get me through a full day, but you do have to be a little bit more reserved in your use, especially if you're a heavy gamer or you go out and you use the camera a lot for photos and videos. That does take a little bit of a toll on the battery life. But overall, if you're just a light to moderate user, you will absolutely get a full day out of iPhone XR with no problems at all. And then lastly, if I just quickly talk about the single 12 megapixel camera on the back of the phone, it's a 1.8 aperture lens, so it's nice and wide and still produces some really great photos, plenty of detail and typical iPhone natural color. They don't tend to be as poppy as what I found on the newer iPhone 14, so the 14 Plus. Colors do come out a little bit brighter. That is to be expected to come from a phone that came out 4 years later. And then of course the 14 Plus does bring out more detail in the shots as well. But overall, photo quality from iPhone XR has been really, really great. HDR does a good job at controlling harsher lighting conditions. And of course, portrait mode does a great job at separating the subject from the background. But of course, with the iPhone XR, it only works on people, or I suppose you could trick it with a human figure or something like that. It doesn't take portrait mode of general objects because of only having that single lens. But overall, the camera quality on iPhone XR has been absolutely fine. And then the 7 megapixel selfie camera on the iPhone XR is really great as well. Typical iPhone quality. It does seem to be a big step up from the 7 megapixel camera of the iPhone X, which came the year before. I do find that the cameras on the XR and of course the XS Max are considerably better than the iPhone X. So Apple did a really great job improving the selfie camera from that one generation between the X and the XR and XS Max range. So despite the iPhone XR still being a really great phone, offering loads of premium features including IP67 water and dust resistance, wireless charging, and then of course Face ID, the iPhone XR in 2023 is still very hard to recommend. And I'll give you one reason why, and that is iPhone 11. Now iPhone 11 of course came out a year later, but improved on a number of things, and you could probably pick one up for about 50 quid more than you can pick up an iPhone XR. And for that you get an extra camera, a bigger battery, and then of course an extra year of software updates and that faster A13 Bionic processor. So if you're gonna go out and buy an iPhone XR, you're not gonna be disappointed with how it performs. I think everything performs really, really well. But if you've got an extra 50 quid, just buy iPhone 11. It makes a lot more sense due to those mentioned before improvements. But again, iPhone XR, if you've got one and you're enjoying it and you don't see any reason to upgrade, then I don't think you need to. But of course, if you're finding issues with it, then it goes without saying that you probably will do. But let me know in the comments what you think of iPhone XR. Is it one that you would consider buying? Although personally I wouldn't, I would just buy iPhone 11. But let me know in the comments what you think of iPhone XR and what you think of this video. I have got a video coming up comparing iPhone 14 Plus with iPhone XS Max, and I will be shooting all of that video on the iPhone XR. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when I drop that video. And thank you for watching this little throwback review of iPhone XR, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video.